to be any worse off, but make it easy for them to say yes. Say, would it be okay if I emailed you with specific questions once a month or once a quarter or something like that? Make it as minimally invasive, at least in the beginning for them, so that they have, they're intrigued. They see your excitement. When I talk to mentors, it's like, yeah, they have something really cool, and it's because that founder was really excited about it and was able to build a big vision. And they want to come along with that, and they want to just see how it's going. And then as you start to build the relationship, you can start to expand, the time, or, ask them to be on a board of advisors. How many entrepreneurs, actually have a board of advisors? You really should, and you should actually use them strategically for contacts and information. But use what you have, and don't be afraid to reach out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would agree. I mean, just again, it's back to the research, but doing the research on who we'd be best aligned with. And when you come to them, be prepared with things that you can target that they might be interested in. So,
yeah, if you're a recent grad of UCLA or Anderson or any school, start with, the entrepreneurship sort of faculty, and just find out that, they can give you so many contacts and be a mentor themselves, and those things will start leading to other people that you can find a more natural affinity. There are a lot of great people in LA in all different fields: entertainment, retail, fashion, software, sort of commercial software as a service. They're so interested in learning new ideas and meeting young people. You just have to ask.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. One pitfall I think entrepreneurs fall into today is believing, and no offense, Suzy, but that VC money is the only money out there for entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And what I don't think they understand is VC money is expensive money. Mm-hmm. You give up a lot of your company. Not as expensive as Shark Tank or something like that, but it's still expensive. And so what advice do you have? I would love to hear from everybody when it comes to deciding on funding routes, and what's the appropriate amount of equity to give up, and how do you make those judgments?
I think the best company is a bootstrap company, right? That is able to control its own destiny. I think that when I see entrepreneurs who are coming out for investor money too soon or too early, without anything to show for themselves, I ask the question, why? Like, can you build for another 3 months? Can you become a cockroach and spend as very little as money as possible to sustain your business? And then when you actually have something to show, or a milestone that you want to hit, and you can only hit that with some additional funding that's going to help you grow and scale quickly, and you have this very specific reason why you want to use that funding, then that might be the time to come to an investor. But even before an investor, a contract, revenue, a business deal, a small business deal, whether your target market is restaurants or your target market is defense contractors. Revenue is your biggest source. It's free money. If you can get a deal with the movie studio, $50,000 is like a one-time deal for them in an RFP process. So find out how you can sustain your business is what's the fastest and best way to get that. And investors might not be the right answer across both sides.
They're called vulture capitalists for a reason. And they'll even tell you it's the money of last resort. I mean, it's such a small percentage of any business that gets equity-based capital. So I love that. Find something that you have a significant milestone to hit where you need capital. But we use services and consulting to kind of feed our bread and butter, and then we took a percentage of that and put that into our product development. So, we did training, we did consulting, figure out where is your expertise and how can you help solve problems for your customers, and that'll help start, get you in the inner circle with them, right? I mean, so that they start to trust you, and then you can really start to understand what problem do they have that you need to solve with your product, rather than saying, I'm a hammer looking for a nail. How can I come and help your company solve a problem? That's when you're going to find the value for consumers or businesses, is that when you're really solving something for them. It's not just, here's my product, what do you need?
Yeah, I mean, even when we had like a Mark Cuban come and speak to entrepreneurs at our National Small Business Week, even he said, like, you're crazy to try to go out looking for capital, like look for some revenues and build that. So, I mean, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. And then there's, friends and family as well that you can.
Friends, families, and the other fools, right? No. I think a good test before you go out to raise venture capital, you should run your idea past your closest friends, even relatives, and just get their take.
Yeah.
If they're not very eager to invest, you could ask them why. And it's hard. I don't know, Suzy, do you ever ask people that pitch you how much they invested in their own in the startup? If you're not even willing to put in $25,000 of savings and you're just looking for other money, you don't believe in your product enough, your company enough. So you have to invest in yourselves, and you have to show that the people that know you best, maybe alumni from your college and their contacts, you're able to convince them to give you a little seed money, and then you can tell them, I got this amount of seed money, and I went out and got this customer, and that's the return, and I can do more now. So.
Great idea.
I would add as well that, I would check out sbir.gov, which is that Small Business Innovation Research grants that I referenced. And we have, a local company here, 7 Generation Games, who does education platforms. She's gotten grants from, Department of Ed and USDA to fund her ideas to start, technology platforms for education. So I think, you have to try those resources as well. We're known as the America's largest seed fund. It's like about $2 billion a year that we funnel through that program. And so it's, there's other opportunities out there like that.
I will say those funds take a little bit of time to get.
It is tough to get, but it's possible.
Usually startups, we say get started and use that like for your second generation product or something like that. It's not easy, but it is so worth it if you can figure out how to crack that nut.
You have that great idea. Like, one of our SBIR grant recipients is trying to develop the vaccine right now for Zika. So we'll see them in the news.
Is that all?
I think we're winding down on time for this part of the Q&A, but we wanted to open it up for some audience Q&A. So if you'd raise your hand, and right here in the row, in the pink.
I am a tech consultant to the legal industry. But I have a next Uber orbit and want to go forward with them looking and on. My question to you is, I have been an IT manager for years and never actually coding. I need someone to code for me, and I don't know at what point at which I need an attorney to do some. Thank you. I have a loud enough carrying voice anyway, but I am looking at what kind of protection do I need legally to myself? I'm afraid to approach anyone. I've approached many people with a generalization of the idea, but I don't want to give specifics because I know people who do have the resources that I do not, who could develop the idea, and I want to do a non-disclosure agreement.
I got you. You know what? Let me give you my card afterwards, and I will give you like 30 minutes of free advice on that area. So, okay.
There's also a very interesting company called Gigster, Gigster. It's founded by a founder named Roger Dickey, and it's a marketplace for technology builders, so coders. So you literally put in your idea, and then they give you back pricing and quoting from a marketplace of engineers.
I also know of an accelerator that will do app development in exchange for equity. It's called Spinta, S-P-I-N-T-A. But I will also say, just with the NDA, be really careful. I mean, the idea, I will guarantee you somebody else has that same idea. The difference is in the execution. So just don't let you being afraid to tell it keep you back.
I've looked on all the funding things and nothing.
It's in somebody's head, I guarantee you that. Yeah, so run. If it's a good idea, run and get it done. Run and get it done. Good.
Hi, my name is Carla Mays. My company is Mays Civic Innovation. And my question has to go, you were talking about being in cockroach form, and I love that. I do a lot of work with startups and work on my own products, but I'm looking at how do you sell to the government, like where you're going to get that contract, that one-time contract. We've got a platform for economic development. And we've been working on it. We just got back from Montreal, and we've been talking with the government there, but we really want to do it at home. And so we're like, how do we make that pitch and be able to get that contract to be able to develop the platform?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, we have business opportunity specialists in our district offices around the country that's their job, their full-time job, to help you. You can definitely have my card afterwards and make sure you get to the right person that they actually help you. But that's the point. I mean, you have to, understand, where those contracts potentially are within the government. Be ready when they're either coming up the next time. Be prepared. There are certification programs that we have within the federal government that you can try to apply into, and we're trying to simplify that. It used to take years. It used to take years to get certified. Where we've moved it with our, President Obama's initiative around U.S. digital service. We launched a U.S. digital service team around SBA to simplify our platforms, including around contracting. So I think it's getting better to try to do contracting, but we can start there, and then definitely I'll help you.
I would say two things. Sometimes getting into the government is difficult. You might want to find a business partner that already has some past performance with the government, because a lot of times.
We work with a bank.
Okay, work with whomever you work with that is familiar with the government, just because the government's going to look at it and go, hey, we're around for a long time, you're a startup, are you going to be around to support this? Exactly. So see if you can partner with somebody. And then second, I work for the Economic Development Administration. I'm happy to set up a demo with our staff and at least give you feedback.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love that. Thank you.
Perfect.
Hi there, I'm Brendisha Tynes, and I'm a professor at that other university.
Yeah. Is there another one?
Yeah. I understand, I do understand. And I was on fellowship at the University of Michigan last year and created the MVP for my company, Zenly Technologies. And I'm now trying to sort of navigate this space between, being an entrepreneur and being a professor. And I believe USC still owns my intellectual property, or at least a part of it, as long as I'm a professor. And I'm just wondering if you've worked with people who are in that same space, and how would you advise someone like me?
I'll let the lawyer talk in case you work with that at all. But I've worked with a lot of tech transfer.
I've worked with venture capital firms that have invested in research coming out of a university, and you really have to look, as a professor, the agreements you signed with USC in terms of the area of research that they funded you for and who owns that, and whether you were free to do other things on your own time, or whether they own a piece of it because you used university resources. So the devil is going to be in the details of what USC had you sign. So that's probably the beginning step, because different universities have, if you go to Stanford University's website, they have an office of like IP, or, they have all the sort of a good background of things to look for, because, at Stanford, they know that all their professors are creating things that they are going to commercialize themselves, so they have all the right agreements. I mean, you sign what you sign, and so it's worth taking a look at what you signed and figure that out.
Yeah, it's not hard to license it, though. If they do have some IP ownership in it, you can license it, and sometimes they'll give you a free license and just for royalties or something like that.
Yeah, they'll give it to you for maybe a number of years to see if you do something with it, because otherwise they're not. They want to benefit from it too.
They don't want to. Yeah, what
they
are
want to
gonna
make
do with
you a superstar, and sort of that's good PR for the other school.
and take a piece of it.
Take a piece of it.
I'll take a piece of it.
Let's see if we have any new questions. New questions for the panel. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sheila Marmon. I run a company called Mirror Digital. We have raised some seed capital, but we're also generating revenue. So there's that tension between, do I just head down, get customers, or try and go after a larger raise? And the biggest advantage I see to potentially going after a larger raise is the networks that the VCs have. They have a vested interest in introducing you to the right place to help accelerate the growth in your company. So what are some alternatives from your perspective to getting that same access? It's sort of, they're going to make money if you make money. So that creates a very different dynamic in them helping move your business forward. So just curious on some thoughts there.
You could put them on your advisory board for equity. Give them a small advisor share of equity so that they have some vested interest. I'm on the board of a company. I didn't put any money in, but as an advisor, I get a very small, I vest in a very small percentage of equity, but that's a little bit of an incentive if they're really excited about what you need, but you don't necessarily want the money. But somebody said earlier about the money and mentoring, and definitely, that's one of the things I think that crowdfunding has fallen a little short on, is that the money is actually not the most important part of an investment. It's actually the mentorship and the networks that you get. So you're very smart to think about that.
Also, Sheila, I think we've been on email before. So you're in a very unique position, having raised seed capital and having revenue. And there are a lot of people who will take a meeting with you, even if it's 30 minutes or an hour, and that you can leverage into one new introduction to a key person that might be very helpful to your business. And so I would say, before you take any additional capital, take advantage of that. Because you're one in 25 women around the country that has been able to achieve a certain task of funding, and that makes you in the club of the ability to go and get more, but at your choosing. Make sure you strike that balance, just because you only want to bring on equity partners, investors that really want to be on your team. And so until you meet those people, everybody else, they can help you find a way to the other people, but you have nothing to gain unless they really want to be on your team.
Okay.
One last question. Yeah, right there.
I just went blank. Sorry. One of the questions that I had was about public-private partnerships in terms of that being an avenue for funding. So in the keynote speech, they mentioned LA Data and the different projects that the city has. Is that an avenue for funding or a source of revenue, with one of the projects that the city has? I don't know if anyone on the panel has any experience in that, where it would be something that the city would partner with a private sector company and provide funding?
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with it, but similar to the federal government, I'm sure that there's, contracts or, partnerships that you could strike up with the city if you find an opportunity, and make those networks in advance so that you have someone to call if something pops up.
Yeah, I know at the U.S. Department of Commerce, Secretary Pritzker has made a big deal of opening up our data. So underneath Commerce, and don't be embarrassed, I did not know this before I went to work for Commerce, we have the Patent and Trademark Office, we have the weather, the NOAA, we have the Census Bureau. And so all of that data, they're working, and international trade, they're working on opening it up. So I know that the weather data especially has spawned so many businesses. And the federal government, while we might not give you money, will give you data and then help promote your business, because we want our data to be used. And so that, something like that, it's not exactly cash in the hand, but getting the, having, NOAA, the Weather Service, to say, hey, look at this new app, that's a little bit of credibility builder right there. So look into that.
And as an example of a founder who's doing something similar, we're using government as a public-private partnership and as a revenue source. There's a founder named Ryoo, and he's building a company called Spider Tech, and it's data-driven policing. And he was it's a Manhattan Beach-based and downtown-based company, but he did the New York TechStars program. And so he has pilots going on right now with smaller police departments, so like city government, chief officer of the police. So he has pilots going in Austin, in Annapolis, and in a few other markets. But ultimately he wants to bring that back to LA. But LA, the keynote that happened, they are very focused on data and open data, and so they have hackathons where they want to meet engineers and meet founders who are building on top of their data. And so, if he is at those hackathons and building alongside the municipal government in LA, that's an access and entry point for him to later get a revenue deal with the LA Police Department.
Right.
And I think that concludes our time for the panel today.
Thank you again to all of our panelists. A lot of them, sorry, this is a little low. A lot of them flew out here just to come participate. Julie came as far as DC. So thank you all for coming and participating on the panel. We're going to have a 10-minute coffee break. There's refreshments out on the back patio. They're provided by the UCLA Healthy Campus Initiative, so they're all healthy. And I think there's some coffee out there too. And then we'll have a panel 1.2, which will be success factors for entrepreneurs. So another big round of applause for our panelists.